For thousands of years, there were no maps of this frozen world. Then the first planes came, bravely exploring the unknown. Now I'm taking up the challenge, attempting to cross the top of the world. My name is Shane Lundgren. I'm a commercial airline pilot, and I've come to Alaska for the most dangerous flight of my life. I'm leading a team of pilots as we fly two vintage biplanes called Antonovs over the North Pole. I've wanted to make this trip since I was given an Explorers Club flag that was first flown to the Arctic 70 years ago. And I looked on the border of it here where it says carried by Captain George H. Wilkins, Alaskan Commander, Detroit Arctic Expedition, Barrow, Alaska, March 31st, 1926. Captain Wilkins was an amazing adventurer and the first person to fly a plane across the Arctic. I want to honor this explorer by bringing his flag to the top of the world. Just like Wilkins, I'll have to fly first to the top of Alaska and the tiny outpost of Barrow, the last fueling station for Arctic flyers heading to the pole and beyond. Ron Sheardown will pilot the other Antonov. He's got more Arctic flying experience than the rest of us combined. My co-pilot is Donnie Olson, the only native-born Alaskan on the trip. He's got a lifetime of wilderness experience, but I hope we don't have to use it.
For some reason, there's a mechanical difficulty. I'm planning on walking out of there and walking toward civilization.
But right now, all we want to do is fly.
Contact ground point 7 inch. 657 Zulu Kilo over Tudor.
As we climb through the mountains, I feel like I'm flying into the past, when this country was first explored by plane. From here on, the far north is littered with the bodies of Arctic pioneers. In 1897, Solomon Andre took off for the pole in a balloon and disappeared. When his remains were found 33 years later, there was a phenomenal discovery. With his camera and diary, Andre had recorded his last days on the ice. Andre had crashed 3 days after takeoff and survived for 3 months. When his body was found, it appeared he hadn't died from exposure, but from eating undercooked polar bear meat. "30 years after Andre disappeared, Hubert Wilkins decided to reach for the pole. Carrying the same flag I have today, he attempted to cross 1 million square miles of unknown world. When he took off, some people thought he might never return.
All right, 6633 north, we've just crossed the Arctic Circle.
I'm now following directly in Wilkins' footsteps. His film camera captured the first aerial images of northern Alaska. Wilkins' partner, Ben Eielson, said these mountains look so dangerous, even the birds should get out and walk.
Headed out of the Brooks Range, now we're over the North Slope, heading out for Barrow. Oh, it's beautiful out here, though, isn't it?
The North Slope of Alaska. Whatever lighthearted ideas I may have had about this trip have been torn out from under me.
I can see Barrow now.
We've reached the top of the United States and the frozen rim of the Arctic Ocean. This tiny outpost is so small and lonely, but if you want to fly to the top of the world, this is where you begin.
Well, Donnie, here we are at Point Barrow. Looks like next stop, North Pole.
It's been years since anyone came here in planes like these, so we arrive as celebrities. But we learned some bad news. Last week, the spring fog rolled in and caught a small plane by surprise. It crashed, killing everyone aboard. We go to sleep hoping to leave before the weather turns deadly again. The next morning, we wake up to our worst nightmare. The Arctic fog has enveloped Barrow. If we try to climb through these frozen clouds, our slow planes may ice up and crash. The Alaska Air Flight reports the fog is 2,000 feet thick and goes north as far as they can see. Even the locals say this is a bad one, and it could last for weeks. We're running out of time. On the fourth day, we finally get a break. The ceiling is lifted to 500 feet. That's not much, but we have to gamble it's enough to fly under the clouds until we reach blue sky. It looks like I'm finally going to the North Pole.
I just think we have to keep our eyes open. Any one of a number of factors should be enough to stop you.
Yeah, put the furs on later. Got the maps all the way to the pole.
Donnie knows it's still 1,300 miles to the pole. Then it's 800 more miles to Spitsbergen, Norway.
You're taking your life in your hands at this point. You're in real dire straits. You're in serious trouble.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go to Norway. Start them up.
We're ready. If the other Antonovs ready.
Yeah, we're ready.
Our 400-gallon auxiliary fuel tank is full for the first time, adding over a ton of weight. My fully loaded plane might not get off the ground. This is the most dangerous takeoff of my life.
Around at 4:30 exactly.
Our plane lurches into the air. We've made it off the runway, and we fly just above the shore ice. If we go too high, we ice up. Too low, we risk a watery death.
It's starting to look a little lower out here. You mean the ceiling?
The clouds are closing in, and we're getting squeezed out of flying room. Ron decides we have no choice but to take our chances in the fog above.
I'm gonna start my climb now. How's she looking, Ron? Oh, we're getting a little light. But he's icing up without us.
Ron keeps climbing. He breaks through at 2,000 feet. Donnie and I are next.
Here's that hole I want to climb through right here. Okay, we're gonna come on up. Think when you're ready. Keep me following.
Donnie knows what can happen out here. His father was killed when his plane iced up in fog like this. It's hard to see, but a thin layer of ice is building. It's only 1/8 of an inch thick, but the plane is slowing. It feels like we'll never get through as we strain to rise above the danger.
Let me know when you're through. We're through about 300 meters now.
There's still no break in the clouds, and we're praying for blue sky.
Yeah, we're just coming out on top now.
We break out at 2,000 feet. We've made it over a deadly hurdle, and we head north with renewed confidence. But nobody's getting cocky. We can still die today just as easily as the first Arctic flyers. During 3 years of exploring the Arctic, Wilkins and Eielson crashed 5 planes up here and barely escaped with their lives. But they never gave up, finally setting off on what would be their boldest adventure of all, flying straight across the unknown world to Norway. They were lucky enough to leave Barrow under clear skies and watch the Arctic Ocean unfold beneath them. Wilkins and Eielson revealed more of the Arctic than anyone in history. They finally showed the world that there is no land north of Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. But they still had to find Norway and a safe place to land.
Yeah, how's your fuel situation looking?
We've got about 800 in the mains, 800 liters, and about 600 in the back on the right-hand scale. So that gives us about 1,400. What are you guys showing?
We're showing 1,800.
1,800 liters?
All right.
So we've got 400 liters less, don't we? That doesn't make sense. That means 100 gallons less.
Donnie gets to work right away. If these numbers are right, we may have a fuel leak. Donnie needs to calculate how far we can go before our tank runs dry.
There's something seriously wrong there.
We're about 500 miles from the closest runway, and our crisis is growing.
I'm coming up with the idea that we probably can't make it. We've barely got over 2 hours more fuel in the ox tank than whatever we have left else in the main tanks there.
That only gives us 2 hours past the pole. I mean, we'd make it to the pole, but we wouldn't come back.
This is serious business. I think we're going to have to change, and we'll go direct Mold Bay.
Our only hope is to head south to the weather station at Mold Bay on Prince Patrick Island, a 6,000 square mile block of ice with a population of 4 people. Mold Bay means giving up any chance of reaching the pole. It's an incredible disappointment. But now I face a bigger challenge, getting home. After 20 hours of flying, Wilkins and Eielson were also running out of gas, and they were caught in a blizzard. In search of Norway, they dove through the storm and miraculously landed on a frozen beach. 5 days later, they took off looking for any sign of civilization. With less than a gallon of gas left in the plane, they flew over a tiny coal mining town and realized they had made it to Norway. The first plane flight across the top of the world. It's 4 hours since we turned for Mold Bay. My plane is still gulping fuel, and our tank is emptying rapidly.
We may run out before we get there. I'm just a little worried about that.
I'm still 2 hours north of the island, and the fuel tank is almost empty. As the danger grows, we prepare for the worst.
We have to stay with them. If anything should go wrong, you've got to make arrangements to drop a raft or extra supplies for them.
Well, Donnie, we made it. Knock on wood.
At 3 a.m., we finally cross over Prince Patrick Island, but finding the runway won't be easy. The outside air temperature is 20 below, and it's hard to tell what's land or water.
Isn't that it right in front of us?
Finally, we see a thin black scar in a sea of white. It's the best looking runway I've ever seen. We land with barely any fuel left.
Yeah, by God, thank God we're on the ground.
feel like we've cheated death, and we're lucky to be alive.
Hey, you made it!
It's been an incredible flight, and now, more than ever, I'm in awe of the courage of Wilkins, Eielson, and the other early flyers. I think you have to take your hat off to the spirit of flying the Arctic and the people who were here and the courage they had to press on in these conditions with very little information. We could have made the pole, it just wouldn't have ever come back from the pole. And it's just like going to the summit of Everest. If you're within 100 meters and you know you can make it, but you don't think you can get down, what's the point? And the point is to live and to come back and do other things. There's no way to fix my plane out here, and to head north again would be suicide. My only choice is to limp from airport to airport back to Alaska. But I'm already thinking about flying the Arctic next year and taking Wilkins' flag all the way to the pole. I'll never have that same sense of wonder seeing the Arctic ice for the first time. But while the world can only be discovered once, it can be explored forever.